gold of Ultramar. It needs to be bright, it needs to be heroic. You can't have a dark, necrotic gold associated with the boys in blue. As far as this universe goes, in the Imperium of Man, I think these could be considered the good guys. And I say that with many, many caveats applied to an absolute nightmarish totalitarian regime of super soldiers that steal children and implant them with super soldier serum. I begin the painting process with Dwarven Gold across any golden portion of the armour, and for the silver I use Magnesium by Vallejo model colour Air. After the base coat has been applied, I transfer over to the oil paints. I'm using a combination of lamp black and burnt umber. In this case, more burnt umber than lamp black, about 80-90% burnt umber. Black is a very overpowering colour in this context, so use it sparingly. For the gold, I want to create a stain, so it's a slightly thicker consistency to the paint, and I'm letting that sit on the surface of the miniature for at least 12 hours, preferably 24. Once the paint has cured onto the miniature, I'll take a clean brush and remove the majority of it. This will leave the underlying layer slightly stained, as the name of the technique implies, but it will also make sure that the shadows remain very dark and we're able to build on top of it. It also has the very nice side benefit of actually matting down the colours. So when we reapply the golds on top of this, we have the contrast between the matte shadows and the gold highlights that have that reflective quality from the gold paint. Now that the paint has been dried, through the magic of editing, it's the next, I believe I did this the next day, I'm using Vallejo Silver from the Model Color Air range. Essentially any light silver will do us very nicely here, and I am sketching in the highlights that I think would look most effective on these surfaces. Now after you apply the Dwarven Gold highlight or the Dwarven Gold base, it might be worth taking a photograph of your miniature underneath a strong single light source. This will indicate where to place the shadows and highlights and where the reflections build up on a natural metallic surface. If you would like further information on how to create realistic reflections, have a look at the non-metallic tutorial, PDF tutorial that I posted up last month. You'll find it in the PDF section of the Patreon, and it tells you how light reflections are built up on metallic surfaces and what we need to look out for. Even though it is a non-metallic tutorial, the same principles apply to true metallic also. This silver stage I'm starting to build up is essentially another pre-coat. We could think of this in exactly the same manner as our white sketch layer that we first apply through the airbrush. Any gold placed on top of this, any colours placed on top of this, will have a luminosity that would not simply not be there unless we placed it underneath. Any gold washes we place on top of this will have a much brighter reflective quality to them. Once I'm done with all the silver stages, I can return back to my Dwarven Gold and I can create a wash-like consistency with the paint. Now, using metallics in this manner may feel a little unusual at first. When we thin the paints down, you should be able to see the individual flecks of metallic pigment within the paint itself. That's what we are looking for. So when we drag this across the top surfaces of our highlights, when we drag it over the silver that we've established, over the mid-tones, will just help unify everything together. As you can see, when you apply this on top of the silvered surfaces, it creates a much brighter, much brighter, more cohesive golden colour, and as opposed to the areas where you place it over those areas that haven't received that silver highlight. Again, bit more finesse. It takes a bit more practice to get this kind of technique down. I'd suggest that you watch this portion of the video a couple of times if you did want to attempt something like this, or even better, if you have this miniature at home and you wanted to recreate this color scheme. Why not watch this video in isolation, this part in particular, and practice before you start attacking your nice big Primarch miniature. So this piece, this armorial plaque, was taken from Gilliman's kit. Now that I've re-established my mid-tone, I can go back with pure silver to add highlights. To finish off the golden plaque, I'm using Rhinox hide from Games Workshop as a wash, and I am dragging this into all the surfaces, into all the areas I want my shadows to sit. So this isn't just in the darkest, deepest recesses of the sculpt itself, it's also, with the U, you can see I'm not placing it in the darkest shadows, I'm placing it in those areas that would pick up the shadows. This will take a bit of practice, this will take a bit of time for you to be able to see and recognize and know how to construct these kind of shadows on these kind of surfaces. But again, if you have this miniature, feel free to just copy what I'm doing here. Otherwise, refer back to the non-metallic PDF, and it should give you some guidelines on where to place your shadows and highlights. And you can always refer back to that initial photograph that you've taken. So I'll just go through how to... after this, I'll be adding individual feathered lines to help separate out the sculpt a little bit more. But otherwise, that is it for the gold. When it comes to a larger piece, larger, more complex piece than this, I'll often find myself going back and forth between the gold stages, the silver stages, and the Rhinox hide stages. And I'll keep oscillating between these stages until I feel like I've hit that right combination. Now, knowing when to say stop can be a bit of a trial, because you can just keep going and going, refining the highlights again and again and again. It's down to you. It's a personal choice on when you choose to finish. The argument could be made, when is a piece ever finished? How long is a piece of string? You just have to find that medium, that tone that sets it. You think, yep, I am happy. And by the end of this project, I was very, very happy with where the golds were. And that is the finished video for the metallics. I hope you learned a lot, for the gold especially. If you have any questions, and I'm sure after something like this that you may have a few, please get in contact with me. That's what I'm here for. The videos are only a jumping off point to spur your own creativity. You need to view these in isolation. If possible, take notes and send them over to me. That's what I'm here for, to add that extra layer of feedback for you guys. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that you go on and create something really gorgeous with these sets of tutorials, and if you do, please send me pictures. I'd love to see what my students are up to. Thank you very much. I'll catch you soon.